The ship Valora hovered above a dead world. Thick clouds swirled over the surface, blocking sunlight. Captain Terev stood at the viewing window, his arms crossed, a deep frown on his face. "This is it," said Science Officer Velna, her voice tight with excitement and fear. "Planet E-17, also known in old tales as the Forbidden Planet." Terev's tail twitched uneasily. Why was it forbidden, he asked, though he already knew the old stories. A race, long gone, had lived here, so powerful, so terrible, that even now civilizations feared their memory. "No official records," Velna replied, tapping on her tablet. "Only myths, whispers of a people who ruled the stars, and then vanished without a trace." Terev's eyes narrowed. Something about this place felt wrong, but their mission was clear. The Galactic Council had ordered an archaeological survey. They had to find answers. The ship descended through the thick atmosphere, engines humming low. As they broke through the clouds, the crew gasped. Massive ruins stretched across the land below. Towers fallen, great metal roads cracked and twisted. Yet even in destruction, the structures looked grand, ancient, proud. "This city," Velna whispered, stunned. "It's older than any recorded civilization, and it's made by hands, not nature." Terev gave a sharp nod. "Prepare landing team. I want a full scan of those structures." Minutes later, a group of 6 aliens in armored suits stood on the broken ground. Dust clung to the air, making everything look ghostly. The city was silent, like a graveyard, yet somehow it felt alive. Watching, their boots crunched over the cracked surface. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, circles, lines, faces with deep, thoughtful eyes. None of it matched any known alien language. Velna stopped near a fallen obelisk. "Captain, look," she said, pointing. At the base of the stone, a worn image showed beings walking upright. 2 arms, 2 legs, flat faces. Almost like humans, Terev said quietly, shock tightening his chest. "But humans have only been spacefaring for a few hundred cycles," Velna argued. "This place is tens of thousands of cycles old, maybe more." Terev bent down, running a scanner over the image. No known signatures. It's pure, undiluted. Velna swallowed hard. If this is real, then humans didn't start small. They fell. The idea was too big, too strange. Humans were known as young, reckless beings. Adventurous, yes, but primitive. Yet here was proof, maybe, that their ancestors had once ruled the stars. Trev ordered the team to spread out and search. They moved carefully through the ruins, stepping over shattered monuments and broken relics. Engineer Vrex found a strange panel buried under rubble. "Captain, something here," he called. They dug quickly, brushing away centuries of dust. Beneath the dirt was a wide slab of black metal, smooth and cold. Etched into it was a warning, written in an old dialect but just understandable enough. Velna read it out loud, her voice shaking. "We are the first, we are the last. Remember us, for we could not remember ourselves." The crew exchanged nervous glances. "What does it mean?" asked Vrex. Trev didn't answer, his gut twisted with unease. Whatever had happened here, it wasn't natural. It wasn't a simple death of a civilization. It was something deeper. A collapse from inside. A terrible mistake. Suddenly, the ground trembled lightly beneath their feet. Dust rose in small clouds. "Seismic activity?" Velna asked quickly, checking her reader. "No, it's controlled," she said, horror growing on her face. Something is waking up." Before they could move, a faint blue light spread across the broken city. It traveled like veins of energy along the streets, up the fallen towers, into the sky. The ruins, long dead, were breathing again. "Back to the ship," Terev shouted. But before they could retreat, a giant circular doorway hidden in the rubble cracked open with a deep grinding noise. Cold, ancient air rushed out, and a low voice, not in words but in feeling, touched their minds. "Who disturbs our sleep?" The team froze, unable to move, their hearts pounding. Trev clenched his fists. "Hold your ground," he barked. This could be first contact. But inside he knew. This was not first contact. This was a warning. They had awakened something ancient and very, very human. The light from the ruins pulsed gently, like the slow heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Captain Terev and his team stood frozen, trapped between curiosity and fear. The ancient doorway before them had opened, revealing a dark, sloping tunnel that disappeared deep into the earth. "We cannot leave now," Terev said, his voice low but firm. "There are answers inside." Velna hesitated, scanning the tunnel with her device. "No radiation, no traps detected," she whispered. "But the atmosphere is different inside. It's heavier." The team secured their helmets and stepped into the darkness. Inside, the walls were covered in smooth black stone, untouched by time. Strange patterns glowed faintly under their lights, spirals, stars, and faces that looked almost human. But not quite. Their proportions were just a little too perfect, their expressions filled with wisdom and sorrow. As they moved deeper, the air grew colder. The tunnel opened into a vast underground hall. A domed ceiling rose high above, covered with intricate mosaics. In the center stood a massive stone table, and around it giant statues cloaked in long robes, heads bowed as if mourning. Velna stepped closer and gasped. "Captain, these statues, they're humans." Terev walked around the table, studying the faces. Each statue was carved with incredible detail, lines on the skin, scars, even the tiny folds of their robes. And every one of them carried a symbol, a stylized earth cradled in two hands. "This can't be," Vrex said, his voice cracking. "Humans didn't build this. They couldn't have." But the evidence was right there, carved in stone, written in the language of the ancient dead. On the far wall, a mural stretched the length of the hall. It showed a story in images, humans standing tall above other alien races, guiding them, teaching them. Then a war, giant ships battling in space, worlds burning, and finally, humans falling from the skies, broken and scattered. At the center of the mural was a single image, a dying human king handing a glowing sphere to a kneeling child. The child's face was blank, as if the identity was lost to history. Velna traced the sphere with her fingers. "What is this?" she murmured. "A warning," Terev said, "and a legacy." Suddenly a soft hum filled the hall. The statues trembled slightly, and tiny motes of light drifted down from the ceiling like golden dust. Then, without warning, a holographic projection flared to life above the stone table. It showed a human, tall, strong, wearing a long robe stitched with stars. His eyes glowed faintly, and when he spoke, his voice was deep and sad. "If you are hearing this," the figure said, "then we have fallen beyond memory. Know this. We once guided the stars. We once brought peace, but pride destroyed us." The hologram showed scenes of humans building mighty cities, taming wild planets, creating wonders. Then, images of betrayal, human armies turning on each other, alliances shattering, worlds exploding in fire. "We sealed our knowledge here," the voice continued, "so that it may not fall into unworthy hands. We chose to forget, to hide among the stars, to begin again in innocence, until the day when we are ready to reclaim our place." The hologram flickered, and for a moment, the face changed. It became a modern human face, a man in a simple uniform, young, determined. Velna gasped. It's like today's humans," she cried. The figure's last words echoed through the hall. "Remember who you are." And then the light faded, leaving only silence. The team stood in stunned awe. Vrex broke the silence. "So, humans were once the masters of the galaxy?" "No," Terev said slowly. They are They just don't remember it. A deep rumble vibrated the floor under their feet. Lights along the walls blinked red. "What's happening?" Velna shouted. Tarev checked his scanner. "The activation. Our presence triggered something." They ran back toward the entrance, but the ground split open behind them. Dark shapes rose from hidden chambers, ancient machines half alive, half dead, guardians who had waited for millennia. The first machine, a towering sentinel with glowing red eyes, turned its head toward them. A deep grinding voice filled the air. "Intruders detected, preservation protocol initiated." Tarev raised his weapon, knowing it was useless. "We're not enemies," he shouted. "We seek knowledge." But the ancient defenses didn't care. The past was alive again, and it saw all intruders the same way, as threats. The team sprinted through the crumbling hall, the machines clanking after them. Dust filled the air. Stone cracked and fell from the ceiling. A once-forgotten world was waking, and it was angry. They barely made it back to the surface, gasping for breath under the heavy sky. Above them, storm clouds twisted and flashed with strange blue lightning. Velna turned to Tarev, her face pale inside her helmet. "What have we done?" Tarev looked back at the glowing ruins, now fully alive and pulsing with ancient power. "We found the truth," he said grimly. "And the truth is awake." The storm howled above the ruins, lightning flashing against the dark sky. Captain Tarev and his team huddled near their transport ship, struggling to catch their breath. The ancient machines had returned to slumber, for now, but the feeling of being watched remained. Tarev stared at the entrance to the underground city. "We barely scratched the surface," he said, wiping dust from his visor. "There's more down there." Velna's hands trembled slightly as she checked her scanner. "Multiple energy readings. Deep underground," she whispered. "Something is still active. Something powerful." Rex growled. "We should leave, report to the council." But Tarev shook his head. "No, we didn't come this far to run away. If the humans buried something here, it's important. We have to know what it is." Reluctantly, the team rearmed and returned to the broken city. This time, they avoided the central hall and slipped into a side passage, one hidden beneath a collapsed statue. Dust and debris choked the narrow tunnel, and the air smelled of old metal and forgotten time. They moved slowly, their lights cutting thin beams through the darkness. After several minutes, they found a spiral staircase leading downward, deeper into the planet's bones. Tarev hesitated only a moment before stepping onto the first stair. "Stay close," he ordered. The staircase wound down and down deeper than any of them expected. Finally, they emerged into a vast underground cavern. Before them stretched an impossible sight, an entire city, buried and preserved under the earth, its buildings still intact, lights flickering faintly along streets and towers. Strange flying, machines long dead, hung frozen in the air as if the moment of collapse had been trapped in time. Velna's mouth fell open. This place, it's like they just disappeared, like they were frozen at the very last second. Tarev scanned the city carefully. "No biological life signs," he said. "But there's movement. Mechanical." As they stepped onto the ancient streets, holographic displays flickered to life around them. Ghostly humans walked the streets, laughed, in markets argued in council chambers. It was like stepping into the past. Suddenly, a soft female voice echoed through the cavern. "Welcome, descendants." The team froze. "You walk among the ruins of the first sons of Terra," the voice continued. "You have awakened the memory core. You may now witness the final days." A low hum built around them, and then the sky of the cavern darkened. Images projected all around them, glorious cities, humans walking with pride among the stars. Then the wars, massive fleets clashing in orbit, worlds burning, billions crying out. The final image was a council of humans, serious, desperate. A decision was made. To abandon power, to forget, to scatter across the galaxy as simple, innocent survivors. Velna wiped a tear from her cheek. They chose to start over because they couldn't trust themselves. But why hide all this? Vrex asked, voice bitter. Why leave their children ignorant? Trev stared at the burning skies above them. Maybe they believed true strength comes from building again, not from remembering old mistakes. The ground beneath them trembled. Movement, Velna cried, pointing. Down the central street, a large doorway had cracked open. Inside, a strange glow beckoned. Without thinking, Terev led the way. The team entered a grand hall filled with ancient technology, machines so complex that even Velna could not guess their purpose. At the center, resting on a pedestal, was a small sphere of swirling light. Terev stepped forward carefully. It's a power core, Velna whispered. But it's alive. It's thinking. The moment Terev's hand hovered above the sphere, a shockwave rippled outward. Holograms filled the room, more images of human explorers, scientists, warriors. But these were different. Their eyes shone with fierce determination and their hands held strange glowing weapons. The last hologram showed a group of humans boarding sleek ships and vanishing into the darkness of space. A single word echoed through the chamber. Awakening. Velna's scanner beeped wildly. Captain. The core. It's connecting to something, she shouted. It's calling out into space. Trev's blood ran cold. Shut it down, he barked. But before they could react, a hidden panel in the wall slid open. Inside was a humanoid figure, sleeping in a glass pod. Pale-skinned, tall, with silver tattoos running along its arms and face. Clearly human, yet somehow not. Velna gasped. Is that one of them? The figure's eyes snapped open, bright gold like twin suns. Alarms blared all around them. The figure smiled, slow and knowing, and spoke in perfect, ancient human tongue. We are not gone. We were only waiting. The chamber shook violently as ancient systems woke up, machines grinding to life after eons of silence. Trev raised his weapon instinctively. The figure just laughed, a deep, echoing sound that sent chills down their spines. The humans were back, and this time, they remembered everything. The golden-eyed figure stepped calmly out of the glass pod, his movements graceful and precise. His presence filled the ancient chamber with a strange, heavy power, as if history itself had returned to life. Captain Terev and his team instinctively took a step back. Their weapons felt like toys compared to whatever strength this being held. The human looked around the dusty room and smiled faintly. How long has it been? He asked softly, his voice like a whisper over deep waters. Velna's voice trembled. Who are you? The figure turned his golden gaze on her. I am Arcanus, he said, last of the memory keepers, guardian of what once was. Before anyone could react, the walls of the chamber shifted. Panels opened, revealing massive corridors leading deeper underground. Soft blue lights ignited one by one, showing a clear path. Arcanus beckoned them with a tilt of his head. You came seeking the truth, he said. Now you must see it with your own eyes. Trev exchanged a look with Velna. Every instinct screamed to leave, to run. But curiosity, the curse of all explorers, was stronger. Without a word, they followed. They moved through silent halls lined with crystal panels. Inside each panel floated glowing symbols, fragments of memories frozen in time. Scenes of ancient cities, starships bigger than moons, humans shaping planets with machines that defied physics. At last, they reached a great vault door covered in carvings. Arcanis placed his hand on it. The carvings glowed, the door rumbled, and slowly, it opened. Inside was a massive circular chamber. In the center, suspended in a web of golden energy, floated a sphere as large as a house. It pulsed gently, like a giant heart. The memory vault, Arcanus said quietly. The final record of humanity's first rise, and their greatest fall. Terev stepped closer, awe flooding through him. Why hide all this? Arcanus's smile faded. Because knowledge without wisdom is a weapon, he said, and we had forgotten wisdom. He gestured toward the sphere. Come, see what we tried so hard to bury. The team gathered around as streams of light spilled from the vault. Images filled the air. They saw the beginning, humans rising from one small world called Earth, expanding to the stars with hope and wonder. They saw the Golden Age, where humans created alliances with alien races, building an empire of peace. They saw the pride, leaders growing arrogant, believing themselves gods. And then, the wars. Worlds burned, stars were shattered, whole species were erased in the fury of civil wars that tore the empire apart. The final scene showed the last council of human leaders, faces worn with sorrow. They voted to end the madness, to scatter, to forget, to give their children a second chance free from the mistakes of pride. Velna wiped silent tears from her face. They gave up everything. To save the future, she whispered. Arcanus nodded. And now, you have awakened their legacy. Terev frowned. But why now? Why not let it stay buried? Arcanus' golden eyes darkened. Because forces stir in the galaxy. Shadows long thought dead are rising again. If humanity does not remember who they are, they will be destroyed a second time. The floor beneath them rumbled. Alarms flared. The ancient systems, strained by age and reactivation, were starting to fail. You must choose, Arcanus said urgently. Take the memory vault and deliver it to your people, or leave it here and let the galaxy forget forever. Terev's heart pounded. If the vault reached the wrong hands, the power of ancient humanity could be twisted into a new nightmare. But if they left it, the truth would be lost. Before he could answer, heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor behind them. The ancient guardians, those deadly machines, had awakened again, sensing the vault's opening. Arcanus stepped forward, calm as stone. I will hold them back, he said. You must decide. Terev clenched his fists. We can't take the vault, he said finally. But we can take the memory. We can tell the truth. Arcanus smiled, a true, warm smile this time. Then perhaps, there is hope. He turned and faced the oncoming machines, energy gathering around his hands. Run, he said, and remember. Terev and his team sprinted back through the corridors as the first blasts of energy shook the vault. Behind them, Arcanus stood tall, a single figure against the storm, defending the past with the last strength of an ancient race. They reached the surface just as the vault's entrance collapsed behind them, sealing the secrets once more. Breathing hard, Terev looked up at the stars. We found more than ruins, he said quietly. We found ourselves. And somewhere, deep underground, the last guardian of humanity's first empire smiled in the darkness, knowing that the flame had not gone out. It had merely waited then for someone worthy to carry it forward. The night sky above the forbidden planet roared with strange blue lightning. Captain Terev and his team raced toward their ship, their hearts pounding from what they had just witnessed. Dust whipped around them, and the ground trembled under their boots. Velna clutched a small device in her hands, the only artifact they managed to save from the memory vault. A crystal drive humming faintly with power. We have to get this off the planet, she shouted over the rising wind. As they reached the Valora, Vrex stumbled and looked back. From the ruins behind them, thin columns of blue light shot into the sky. Signals, beacons, messages. Terev swore, under his breath. They're calling someone, or something. The ship's engines roared to life. They lifted off just as the earth split below, ancient machines crawling out of the cracks. Towering guardians with massive arms and glowing red. Eyes watched silently as the ship escaped into the clouds. Inside the ship, silence filled the cabin. No one spoke for several minutes. Finally, Velna broke it. Captain, the drive, it's not just data. Terev turned sharply. What do you mean? Velna placed the crystal drive on the table. Holographic energy flickered above it, forming a strange, moving map. A network of lines and nodes stretching across the stars. It's a star map, Velna said, voice shaking. And something else. The map zoomed into a small sector of space. A planet blinked red. Coordinates, she whispered. Hidden locations, vaults, weapons, technologies, left behind by the first. Sons of Terra. Vrex leaned closer, eyes wide. You mean, there's more? Trev's mind raced. If this falls into the wrong hands, he muttered. Before he could finish, an alert flashed across the dashboard. Unidentified ships approaching, Vrex shouted. Trev's blood ran cold. On the screen, several dark angular ships appeared, moving fast. Their design was unfamiliar, sleek, predatory, dangerous. They must have picked up the signal, Velna cried. Trev gritted his teeth. They're not here to talk. He grabbed the controls. Hold on. The Valora darted through the atmosphere, engines screaming. The enemy ships fired. Energy blasts that crackled past them, lighting up the night sky. Inside the cockpit, alarms blared. Shields dropped to half strength. They're faster, Vrex shouted. Velna clutched the drive tighter. They can't get this, she said. If they take it, the galaxy will burn. Trev made a split-second decision. We're heading to the rift, he said. Vrex's eyes widened. The rift? That's suicide. Trev's jaw tightened. Better dead than handing them the power of ancient humanity. The rift was a violent region of space filled with gravitational storms and black holes. Uncharted. Deadly. No ship that entered had ever returned. But it was their only chance. The Valora plunged toward the rift's edge, enemy ships in hot pursuit. Lightning-like energy arced across their path. Space twisted and bent around them. Systems flickered. Lights dimmed. In the chaos, the enemy ships hesitated, wary of entering the unstable zone. Trev grinned grimly. They're scared. He angled the ship sharply, diving into a swirling storm of gravitational energy. The Valora shook violently. Panels ripped loose. Sparks flew. Stabilizers offline, Velna shouted. Compensate manually. Trev barked. Vrex fought. The controls hand steady despite the ship's violent lurching. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the enemy ships behind them. One was torn apart by the rift's fury. They won't follow, Velna gasped. But the ship was in bad shape. Warning. Lights blinked red. Engines overheated. We need a place to land, Vrex yelled. Ahead, through the swirling madness, a faint signal blinked. A planet hidden inside the rift, protected by the chaotic storms. Trev's eyes narrowed. Set course. We have no other choice. The Valora limped toward the hidden world as they broke through the last storm. A breathtaking sight unfolded. Below them was a lush green planet, untouched, pure. Towering crystalline structures rose from the surface, gleaming under a violet sun. Velna gasped. It's beautiful, she whispered. Trev nodded grimly. And very ancient. As they descended, scanners picked up faint signals, similar to those from the vault. There's more down there, Velna said. More from the first suns. Trev set the ship down near a shimmering lake. The moment they touched the ground, the landscape around them seemed to ripple, like the planet itself was aware of their arrival. They disembarked. Velna clutched the drive tightly. Trev looked at his team, determination burning in his eyes. This planet holds secrets, he said. Maybe even the future of humanity itself. Above them, storm clouds gathered once more. The battle for ancient power was only beginning, and they were right at the center of it. The alien planet beneath the rift felt alive under their boots. A strange hum vibrated through the ground, almost like a heartbeat. The air was rich, heavy with the scent of ancient life. Crystalline towers stretched toward the violet sky, their surfaces shimmering with hidden patterns. Captain Trev moved cautiously, weapon drawn, senses alert. This place, Velna whispered, her voice full of awe. It's not just a ruin. It's a sanctuary. Vrex scanned the surroundings. No signs of enemies, but energy readings are off the charts. Trev glanced around uneasily. It feels like we're being welcomed. They followed a path of glowing stones leading toward a grand structure at the base of a mountain, a temple carved from crystal and stone, older than anything they had ever seen. As they approached, the massive doors opened with a low rumble, revealing a vast hall filled with soft blue light. Inside, holograms flickered to life around them. But these were not memories of war. These were memories of hope. Children laughing under twin suns, scientists shaping worlds with gentle hands, leaders speaking of unity, not conquest. Velna wiped a tear from her eye. "This is what humanity was meant to be," she whispered. "Not conquerors, but creators." At the center of the hall stood a large pedestal. Resting atop it was another crystal sphere, larger, brighter, alive with swirling energy. Trev approached slowly. As he reached out, a voice filled the hall. Not a mechanical recording, but warm, human, alive. "You who have come seeking the past, know this." An image formed above the sphere, a woman in flowing robes, her eyes kind but strong, clearly human, yet marked by the wisdom of ages. "We were the first children of the stars," she said. "We rose, we fell, and we chose to forget. But if you have found this place, then it is time to remember." The sphere pulsed, and a new star map appeared. This one far larger, far more detailed than before. Hundreds, no, thousands of hidden human colonies scattered across the galaxy, lost descendants of the first suns, forgotten, but alive. Velna gasped. "There are others. Whole worlds of humans we never knew existed." The woman's image continued. "The legacy of humanity is not power. It is hope. It is creation. It is the choice to rise again, better than before." The sphere brightened, and a new signal burst outward, silent, invisible, but powerful. A call across the stars. Terev's eyes widened. "You've activated a beacon," he said. "A call to the lost colonies." Velna looked around nervously. "If we can find them, unite them, humans could rise again." But a shadow passed over the hall and the ground trembled. From the skies, dark shapes descended, sleek ships bearing the same predatory designs as the enemy vessels before. "They followed us," Vrex shouted, raising his weapon. Terev cursed under his breath. "They want the sphere. They want the power." The temple shook as blasts hit the outer walls. Cracks formed in the crystal pillars. "We can't let them take it," Velna cried. Terev thought fast. "We'll split up," he ordered. "Vrex, Velna, you take the sphere and the drive, get to the secondary ship." "And you?" Velna demanded. Terev smiled grimly. "I'll buy you time." Before they could argue, he shoved the sphere's protective casing into Velna's hands. "Go!" he barked. Reluctantly they ran, disappearing into the side corridors. Trev turned toward the main entrance just as the enemy forces broke through. Sleek soldiers in black armor, weapons crackling with deadly energy. He fired the first shot, drawing their attention. "Come and get me!" he roared. Blasts tore through the hall, but Trev moved like a ghost, leading them deeper into the temple's labyrinth. Meanwhile, Velna and Vrex sprinted through narrow tunnels, clutching humanity's last hope. Alarms blared. Walls shook. The temple itself seemed to fight alongside them, corridors sealing behind them, confusing their pursuers. They reached the outer edge just as their secondary shuttle lifted off remotely, summoned by Vrex's emergency signal. "Almost there," Velna cried. But as they crossed the final bridge, a blast struck near them, sending Vrex tumbling. Velna screamed, grabbing his hand. "Hold on," Vrex grimaced, pulling himself up with her help. They stumbled into the shuttle just as enemy ships closed in. Inside the cockpit, Velna jammed the controls. "Hang on!" The shuttle blasted away from the temple, weaving through enemy fire. Behind them, the ancient sanctuary collapsed in a brilliant flash of blue light, self-destructing to protect its secrets. Terev's last stand had saved them. But the cost was heavy. Inside the ship, Velna clutched the sphere tightly, tears streaming down her face. "We'll make it worth it," she whispered. The stars stretched out before them, thousands of lost human worlds, waiting. The true legacy of humanity was alive, and it was calling them home. The small shuttle raced through the stars, leaving the shattered temple and the forbidden planet far behind. Inside, Velna stared at the glowing sphere resting between them, its soft light pulsing like a heartbeat, steady and alive. Vrex sat quietly. Beside her, his armor scorched, his body aching but his eyes burning with new purpose. Captain Terev's sacrifice weighed heavily on their hearts, but his voice echoed in their minds. Remember who you are. Ahead, the star map flickered above the console, showing thousands of points of light, hidden human colonies, lost and waiting. Velna touched the controls gently. We're not running anymore, she said quietly. We're going to find them. All of them. Vrex nodded, his voice rough. And we'll tell them what we found, about who they really are. As the shuttle slipped deeper into space, the signal from the sphere pulsed outward, invisible but unstoppable, traveling across systems, cutting through the void like a whisper of destiny. Far away, in distant corners of the galaxy, small things began to stir. On a forgotten farming world, an old man looked up at the night sky, feeling a strange pull in his chest, a memory he never knew he had. On a mining colony buried under ice, a group of children playing in the snow suddenly stopped, listening to a song only they could hear. On a hidden research station orbiting a dead star, a woman in a worn-out uniform clutched an ancient book tighter, tears filling her eyes for reasons she could not explain. The call of the first sons was awakening something deep within humanity's scattered descendants. Not fear, not anger, but memory and pride. Velna and Vrex traveled for weeks, following the ancient pathways outlined by the star map. Every world they reached carried echoes of the past, ruins, hidden relics, signs of forgotten greatness. And always, small groups of humans who felt the call and answered it, though they did not know why. The movement grew quietly at first, messages passed in secret, meetings in the dark, whispers of old names long erased from history. Then, louder. Worlds began to change. Flags once forgotten were raised again. Songs once buried were sung in the streets. Children learned stories of stars and empires their ancestors had ruled. And among it all, the legend spread of the explorers who brought the truth back. Velna, Vrex, and the memory of Captain Terev. Years later, in a grand hall built atop the ruins of a lost human city, representatives from 100 worlds gathered. Humans of every color, shape, and language stood side by side, their eyes shining with the light of remembrance. Velna stood at the center, the glowing sphere floating above her hands. She spoke simply, her voice steady. We are the children of the first sons of Terra, she said. We forgot once. We were broken once, but we have remembered. The hall erupted in cheers, and somewhere deep in the fabric of the universe the stars seemed to burn a little brighter. For humanity had not been destroyed. It had only been sleeping. Now it was awake, and it would rise again, not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as builders, dreamers, protectors of the stars. The legacy of the first sons lived on, stronger than ever. Far beyond the new alliance, in the darkest reaches of space, ancient enemies stirred. They had felt the awakening, and they remembered the fear. A shadowy figure watched from a hidden world, its eyes narrowing as the first human fleets began to sail proudly across the stars once more. They have returned, it hissed. But this time, they will not rise unchallenged. The battle for the future of the galaxy was only beginning. But humanity, reborn from the ashes of its forgotten past, was ready. And nothing would ever be the same again.